Hi, today a customer dropped off this racket. It's a blacked out prototype. You probably can figure out what brand it is, but I'll reveal its identity at the end of today's video. I'll be restringing this racket with natural gut, and I'll show you a couple techniques when using string savers. All right, let's go inside. All right, so if you're not familiar what string savers are or what it's used for, when it first came out, I'm thinking in the late 80s, it was called stringalings, and it came in a plastic strip like this with these square inserts that go into the intersection of the string. And then it came with a tool like this that would be used to pry up the string, so you could slide that into the strings. And once you got it in there, you just had to break it off like that. So, but you can't get stringalings anymore, even though people call it that. There are various brands of string savers, and this is one here. It's the Turna, made by Turna. And what it is, it's the applicator actually is the tool that you use to pry up the string, and you just slide the string saver right into that intersection. So you just pry it up, and it's really easy to apply. In fact, if you were watching some of Pete Sampras's matches when he was playing, he would actually install these string savers in between points at times or on changeovers. And of course he was using natural gut, so that made sense. But I don't think he had a set pattern of where he installed it. I think he looked for wear in the racket, and then he just went ahead and installed it that way. Another player back then, Michael Chang, I had the opportunity to string his racket. And if you look at this picture, before I strung the racket, I actually saved his string bed. You'll notice that there's two string savers installed, and it's green in color. So I'm not sure what brand that was, but I'm pretty sure that back then Michael Chang probably did what Sampras did. He just looked at where the strings were wearing, and he was installing it as he was playing. A player that still uses string savers that's on the tour is Roger Federer. He uses a brand called Wilson Friction Fighter. Although you can't buy it anymore, I have a feeling he has everything that Wilson made and will last him for the rest of his career. All right, so in this first application, I'm basically going to copy what this particular customer likes in terms of his pattern where the string savers are installed. So on this one, we have from the 7th cross, he has 6 going across. Then on this row, he has 8. Then it goes here 10, 10, 10, 10, and a couple of rows of 8 here, and then it ends with 6 across. Personally, I think this is a little bit low on the sweet spot. Typically, players will tend to hit in the top third of the string bed, and I do see some wear on these first, on these 2 strings above the pattern of the string savers. So I am going to recommend to him that we can keep it the way it is, but move it up a couple of strings. In fact, Roger Federer does use string savers. He doesn't really need to prolong the life of the strings, but what I heard is that he was using it when he was using all natural gut and got used to the feel, so he just incorporated it into his hybrid setup. But he has a row of 5 on the 4th cross, and he does skip every other one. And then on the 6th cross, he has every other one. So I'll provide a link below. There was an article that that explains and shows that diagram where you can check it out. I thought it was pretty interesting. All right, so now that I completed stringing the racket, I strung this racket at 40 pounds with the Volco V Icon 17 gauge natural gut. And I was able to convince my customer to raise the installation of his string savers. So previously it started from the 7th cross, but it went all the way up to the 4th one. But I only put a row of 4 on that top row, and then I went to 6, then 8, and then the 4 rows of 10, and then it decreased to 8, and then 6, and then 4. So this actually is in the shape of a tennis ball. It's actually a little bit bigger than a tennis ball, but if I get this wooden spoon and I line it up, it actually matches up perfectly. So it's right in the sweet spot area. And this particular player is a pretty flat hitter, so I'm pretty confident this will work out for him. But I am concerned about the amount of string savers installed, because With this mini, it does affect the way it feels. It does give it a stiffer and I would say a less comfortable feel. It does raise the string bed deflection. So we're gonna find out exactly what that is. I took a reading right after stringing before the string savers and it was at 39. And so we're gonna go ahead and take another reading here. Yeah, so it's up to 42. And so that's 3 units higher. And we'll go ahead and do swing weight and static weight. It was at 344 without string savers, and we're at 347, so that's an increase of 3 units there. And the static weight was 329, so go ahead and see where it is now. So yeah, it's 331, so that's 2 grams higher. So yeah, having this many string saver is not the ideal, I feel. So in my next application, I'll go ahead and show you what I think would be ideal for someone trying string savers for the first time. All right, so I went ahead and applied the string savers in the second application to this racket. And you'll see that what I did is I actually started from the 5th cross down and I installed the string saver 5 across, but on every other string. So when I got to the 6th row, I made sure that I filled that string that was skipped on the previous row. And it is kind of in a staggered pattern, so you'll notice that it's 5 across, but it's it's going across, kind of similar to that Federer setup. And then I went down 8 rows. So I like this setup because it's not as dense as the previous one, where you have a string saver on every string. And if I get this wooden spoon, and by the way, this is actually a training aid that's useful, and it focuses on where the sweet spot is. So if you were to use this wooden spoon, it really helps in making sure that you hit squarely in the sweet spot area. So you'll see that that string saver is focused on that area. So to me, it makes sense, and it doesn't deaden the strings as much, and it does provide a little bit more comfort than the previous application. All right, the other thing that I wanted to measure was the 3 areas where we did on the previous racket. So I did, I'll take the overall weight first. This racket started off at 330 grams without the string savers, and now it's at 331. So there's a 1 gram difference there. Whereas the other setup was, there was a 2 gram difference. All right, next we're gonna do swing weight. And before string savers, this was coming out at 324. So I'll go ahead and, usually I like to take a couple readings just to make sure that I'm confirming that it is what it is. So I'm gonna see what it comes out, and all right, so yeah, we're right at about 325. So it did go up 1 unit, whereas the other setup, it went up 3 units. All right, so then on the next one, we're gonna do the string bed deflection. And before string savers, this was coming out at 41. Now it's coming out at 43. So it went up 2 units, and on the other setup it went up 3 units. So you can see that it makes sense. It's not showing up as high in the weight, the swing weight, and the string bed deflection. So again, I think this is a good way to start off if you want to try it for the first time. I wouldn't recommend it on polyester though, or stiff strings like that. You really want to use it on natural gut, or you could use it on multi-filaments, but it works best for those kind of softer strings. The great thing about string savers is that there's no right or wrong way to install them. So in today's video, I gave you 2 examples of how you could do it. or you can come up with your own pattern. So if you want to try string savers, I provided a link below where you can purchase them. Now, going back to the identity of that blacked out prototype racket, it is a racket made by Volco, and it's called the V1 Evo. For you Volco lovers, I was told that it falls between the V1 Classic and the V1 Pro. Look for it to come out this summer. Thanks for watching, happy stringing, and let your strings play. In case you're wondering about that wooden spoon that I used in this video, it's actually called the pointer. It is a training tool used to fine-tune your strokes to make sure you hit the sweet spot. Made out of all wood, and it's distributed by Functional Tennis in Ireland. What's kind of cool about it, if you can actually hit it here, is that it is the sweet spot. So if you line it up with the racket right here, and you can see where that area is right there in the sweet spot area. So again, it's a fun tool to play with and to train with. It does come in 3 weights, the junior, mid, and pro model. And I provided a link below, so if you decide to purchase one, I do get a small commission, which will help support my channel. While you're on the website, check out the Saber racket, and that's gonna be a cool item, similar to this, but it'll actually have strings on it. So that's coming out in June, and I'll feature that in a future video. Thanks for watching, play with Aloha, and let your strings play.